right, guys, so today is going to be a very quick math lesson. During our Zoom today with the class, we created a graph, our first graph together, and we first of all collected data, and then we created the graph based on that data. So I'm going to be using the exact same data from the lesson to help us make this graph today. And then we're just going to kind of ask a couple questions about the graph, and then I'll show you your seesaw activity. So very quick lesson today, just creating that first graph. Tomorrow, you're going to have a chance to create your own graph. So this is kind of an introduction to creating graphs. So as we started our lesson today, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so you can see what we were doing. I did a little poll, okay? I did a little poll. And the poll asked, what are the favorite colors of the students in the class? And I was shocked. I know a lot of kids like blue, but I didn't expect this many kids to say blue. But 10 of the students in our Zoom said that they would choose blue out of these 4 colors to be their favorite, okay? Only 1 student chose orange, 1 student chose green, and then 2 students chose pink. And so I went ahead and I kind of put tally marks beside each of these colors as the students voted for them as their favorites. So just kind of put those tally marks here and collected the data. Before we ever create a graph, the first thing you have to do is collect data to put on the graph. Otherwise, you have nothing to put on the graph. So this is our data that we're going to be using today. Now, I then took this data and I created a graph with it. Okay, we put a title on the graph. Elizabeth came up with the title, Colors for Kids. Okay, and I went through and I first of all drew my graph. Typically, graphs look like a big L. Okay, and at the bottom, I labeled the color. So this is what the pictures stand for on our pictograph, is each circle equals 1 person that voted for that color. Okay, so then I went through and I graphed our data. We only had 1 student that liked orange, so I drew 1 circle that was orange. In the blue column, we had 10 students that liked blue, so I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 circles in the blue column. We had 1 student that liked green, and so I drew 1 circle in the green column. And then we had 2 students that liked pink, so I drew 2 circles in the pink column. So now that I have shown all of this data on my graph, we can start analyzing the data, which means we're starting to look closer at the data and to understand it better. So I want you to think to yourself, what is the most popular color in our class? How did you know that that was the answer? So our most popular color is blue, because if you look at the blue column, it has the most data points in it, or it has the most pictures in it, okay? This blue column has 10 of these circles, and that is the most out of any of the colored columns here. So now I want you to think to yourself, what was the least popular color in our classroom? Okay, there are actually 2 answers for this one because there's a tie for the least popular one. We have 1 in the orange column and 1 in the green column. And so since we only have 1 in each of those columns, there's a tie for the least popular color, and that's orange and green. Now I want us to look at the difference. Okay, when I say the word difference, I want you to be thinking of subtraction, okay? Finding the difference between 2 numbers, you're subtracting the numbers in order to find how much is different between the 2. So I want you to find the difference between the number of students that like blue and the number of students that like pink. Okay, so your answer should be 8. Because there are 10 students that like the color blue and only 2 students that like the color pink. And so to find the difference between the 2, we would take the number 10 and we would subtract 2. And in our head, we can do 10 minus 2, which equals 8. Okay? The next question, what's the difference between the students that like pink and the students that like green? The answer is 1, because there are 2 students that like pink and only 1 student that likes green, and the difference between those 2 is only 1 person, okay? Only 1 person. Now, my final question for you today is, how many total people did we gather data from to create this graph? How many total people did we gather data from to create this graph? Okay, your answer should be 14 because if we count all of the dots here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 dots on our graph. And each dot in this graph represents one student. So 14 total dots. Okay, so tomorrow you're going to be creating your own graph, but before you do that, I want you to get some more practice in. Your practice today comes from a pictograph that I have assigned in Seesaw. The pictograph is using shapes around the room, and it has hearts, circles, stars, squares, and triangles. You are then going to go through and answer these questions based off of the shapes around the room that are in the graph in front of you, okay? Tomorrow we're going to be creating our own graph, so make sure that you're ready for that. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me and I'd be happy to help you. I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon. See ya.